Hi, I'm Cal Supley. Welcome to Queer and There, where we celebrate the historic queer places and the people who lived through and contributed to our collective queer history here in New York City and beyond.
We're here in the historic West Village at Julius's bar, one of New York City's oldest gay bars and one that is rich with queer history. I'm Michael Ryan.
And I'm Mark Zinneman. Our special guest we'll be chatting with today is Helen Buford, the current owner and incredible caretaker of Julius's. Let's go on and grab drinks.
Let's do it.
But cheers. Let's start with that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So nice to meet you.
Yes.
So Helen, let's begin at the beginning.
Yes.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Greece, a small island called Andros.
What brought you to New York City?
We had family members who lived here, and they sponsored us to come for better opportunities, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, great. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Astoria, Queens, and that's where I went to school, until I got married and I moved upstate.
What was it like growing up in Astoria?
It was great. It was definitely a cultural shock compared to where I grew up as a little girl. But it was great. We played in the street and, the normal stuff that kids do in the city growing up.
When did you first start coming to the West Village?
Well, I didn't start coming to the West Village until I was married, and we bought the bar.
Okay. When did you buy the bar?
So that was in 1999. I would come maybe to the city 4 times a year. But when my husband passed away 14 years ago this month, I came down to run the business, see if I could do it. And I was able to with the help of some good friends.
It takes a village.
It does.
Yeah.
It always does for everything, I think.
That's a big challenge, though.
Yes, absolutely. It was a challenge. I'm glad that I rose to the occasion, and we're here today.
And so are we.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the history of Julius, about the ownership prior to you buying it. Can you tell us?
Okay, so the owner that we bought it from was Fred Lutz. He owned the building as well as the business, and I guess he wanted to sell it when we bought it. He lived here in the building next door until he passed away, and then his daughter had the building. She inherited it, and then she decided she wanted to sell it. So a different group of people purchased the building.
Gotcha. So you own the bar within the building.
Correct. Gotcha. Yeah, I would have liked to own the building.
Right? Then we all are.
Yes. Then we know for sure it would always be safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you bought it in 1999. What has it been like running a gay bar in New York City?
It's been interesting. It had its tough times, but certainly lots of joyous times. And once I knew the history of the bar, it became a mission to preserve it and keep it for the community. And it's been amazing ever since. But I can't say it wasn't hard, because a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into this.
I bet.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you learned about the history of Julius.
I actually learned from a customer and friend, Tom Bernardin, who is quite a character. But
You get a lot of those in here.
yes,
Yes.
we do. And he was really funny. I was sitting back here doing some paperwork, and he comes over and goes, "Come here, little girl, I've got to tell you some history." And we sat down, and I'm like, okay. And he told me about Julius and why it's important to the community, and he goes, please don't turn it into a coffee shop or something. And I looked around and I go, why would I do that? What do I know about coffee shops other than I love coffee, But and he became a friend, and he helped me navigate a little bit within the community. So I'm thankful to him for letting me know how important this was. And
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
That's right, you owe him one.
It's always good to have a friend on the inside.
Yes.
That's right.
Totally.
I think it's great that the bar, though, does kind of bring in new people over time, because now it's got such a legacy that people hear about it. And I think if people hear about it from friends out in the city and beyond, and then say, well, I want to go experience what that is.
Right.
So it's kind of a natural growth, which is pretty exciting.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of environment that I want. I want it to be like you're coming to your living room or your aunt's living room, and be welcoming and, and fun.
Yeah, you do a great job of it.
Thank you.
They always say in New York City that like being outside on the street or in establishments is kind of the living room because the apartments are usually so small. So it's like people want to get out, and I always say that to them, like, oh, I'm always in the village, even though I live uptown, but I'm here, so it's a fun basement or hangout room.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great, and you never know who you're gonna start a conversation with that's sitting next to you.
It's true.
I mean, we have people who all the way as far as Australia who come every 5 years and come to visit Julius. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
All over the world, and it's been great. They pass on the word.
Well, also, it feels kind of like a leveler here too. Like once you come in, there's kind of like a timeless magic to it, where you can approach anybody basically and say hi to them, and at least that's the hope. I remember one time coming back here and sitting right here was Sir Ian McKellen. It's like, oh, that's cool, and it was just like no big deal. I was just having their drinks and their amazing cheeseburgers.
Yes, yes, exactly.
What is actually the history behind the burgers and food at Julius?
Well, actually, the purveyor of the meats is the same one from the previous owner. So we've owned it for 23 years. So the same purveyor is now handed down to the son of the original person.
That's great.
Everything, the burgers come fresh. They never come frozen. And the French fries are actually cut fresh every day. So you're not getting, I mean, other than onion rings and mozzarella sticks, you're not getting a frozen burger.
The mozzarella sticks are so great. Don't worry, I love it.
Yes, onion rings with some barbecue sauce. Try it.
I've been coming here for years, and only a few years ago did I see the machine on the wall that makes the French fries. I was like, wait, they're doing it right here, which is so cool.
Yeah. That's exactly it. That's what's so cool about it. The burgers, I know.
We've got the old poster right here, the biggest and best hamburgers in New York.
In New York,
I love that part. That's from 1952?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Wow. Yeah, so they've been here for quite some time.
How long has the bar been Julius?
Since 1863.
Oh, okay.
So really one of the oldest bars in New York City.
Yes. I mean, it was first a grocery store, is what I was told. And then in the 20s, it was a speakeasy.
Cool.
Hence the barrels in the bar and around. I believe that those barrels were where the alcohol came in. Those are the same barrels? They had not been replaced. No, they're the same barrels. And then in 1934 is when the bar actually became a legal bar. I actually have the original liquor license. I had to bring it home because it was starting to deteriorate. But
ooh, we should make a copy of that and hang it. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. And so ever since then, it was always a bar. But of course, you have the food, and then you've always had an eclectic type of clientele. A lot of artsy people, being down in the village because it was affordable at that point. So I think that's one of the cool things about it, is that there was such a mixture of people.
Sure.
And a lot of talent.
Yeah.
That was here, and then of course it led into the 60s with the sip-in, where you had to have a protest to actually allow gay people to have a drink at a bar. It amazes me that that's only 67 years ago.
Right.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about the sip-in for those who don't know?
Sure. It was the Medellin Society was an early LGBT civil rights group, started in California, and there was a New York chapter, which was the chapter that was headed by Dick Weish, be a friend, miss him every day. And so what was happening at that time were bars were being shut down and fined. People were getting arrested for openly being gay and drinking. And Julius,
so if you were a known homosexual or made that known, you weren't allowed to drink. That was the official rule.
Well, I mean, I don't think you'd be allowed in because, the situation here was there were plenty of gay people, but they weren't out. Right. And unfortunately, what would happen would be a lot of entrapment because a lot of the bars were owned by the mob and a lot of crooked authority. So what would happen is, you would be set up as, you'd be sitting here and, Kyle could say he was the enforcement, and he would come in and he would just, start talking to you. But now being that you were a famous person, guess what? We were going to extort some money from you.
Right.
Otherwise, we'd tell your family. So, that's a horrible thing that not only can you not be yourself, but now you're going to be arrested and they're going to ruin your life.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
And there's no protection for
There was
employment, housing, really
Yeah,
everything
absolutely.
could go away.
Everything you would lose. And that is amazing to me, that you ruin somebody's life over something like that.
For grabbing a drink and a burger.
Correct.
Trying to talk to a
Right.
friend.
a lot
And
of
talk
fear
to
in
a
that.
friend, right. And so the point of the sit-in was, it was copied from the civil rights movement in the South, when they would have sit-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And, they Dick Leish and a group of the people from the Mattachine Society that day went to different places to say, hey, we're gay, we want to be served. And they were like, okay, what do you want?
Leave it to the village.
Right.
Plan
Yeah.
backfired.
Yeah, exactly. So one place was closed because they got word that they were coming. And then they decided, well, let's go down to Julius. Now, Julius had already been raided the week before. So it actually had a sign, if you're gay, go away.
Well, just a sign out front saying, if you're gay,
If you're
go
gay,
away.
go away.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Exactly. What a difference from today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There's a line out the door today.
That's right. That's right. And they came in and they went up to the bartender and they said, we're gay and we'd like to be served. And he puts iconically his hand over the glass and I can't serve you. Now, during that time, there was a new human rights commission that was established. And initially it was established for women's rights, but it also helped the gay community as well, because it was the same thing,
Mhm.
It was like there was prejudice for each group, women as well as the LGBT community. And so that's what helped change the laws with the state liquor authority. They were saying, hey, you can't do this. You can't discriminate against people just because they're gay to have a drink. And so that was 3 years before Stonewall happened. So it was like leading up to it, and I always say, get to the point where enough harassment already, enough is enough,
Yeah.
and then you have Stonewall.
People reach a
Right.
breaking point.
Exactly.
It had been building and building, and it started here.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned the hand over the glass, and there's the great famous photo that was
Correct.
shot, and that was in New York Times. Where did that end up being?
That was in.
Village Voice?
Thank you.
It wasn't the place, which was right nearby
Yes.
of their offices.
And actually, if you look at this picture, I know they can't see it on podcast, but
We'll show 'em.
actually the meeting happened here to establish the Village Place. This is where they met. To
Oh,
start.
no way.
Yeah.
It's been more history.
Yeah.
Place with no voice.
Well, it's good to see you've done a great job, like capturing some of the history from Boys in the Band that was shot here. Some
Mhm.
photos of that I've noticed, and the original menus and such. But did you put that together? And what else are we missing? Maybe.
Well, actually, I didn't put it together, but in talking with Tom, I
Mhm.
said to him, I said, a lot of young people, I don't think, know the history of this bar.
And that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
Gotta spread it.
And I worked in the airline industry when I was
Oh, wow.
married. So even though like my husband was running the bar and so forth, but I was working in the airline industry. And I had some gay friends that I would say, hey, have you ever heard of Julius? And no, what's Julius?
Mm.
And that's why I said to him, I said, you know something? I said, a lot of people don't know. So what can we do to kind of do some history? And he helped put this together, actually.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
for those who haven't been here, it's really like a museum almost.
It
There's,
is.
there's great artifacts on the wall, but also kind of things that have been printed out and
Mhm.
reproduced,
Correct.
which is great.
When I first came here, which was, I remember, years ago, you guys had the best jukebox in town, I have to say. And I remember, I think that's when we actually first met. I went up to you and I was like, excuse me. And I'm like, the jukebox is gone. And I'm like, do you know where the records went? Because it was such a great,
Always
like,
the collector.
I know, I'm the collector and the DJ, I guess. But like, I'm always like, I love that the music, or the records that were here, was very emblematic of the music of like the early gay era. And I feel like they were the same records that had just stayed here. Now it's a digital jukebox, which is fantastic, but
It's not the same.
it's
I
not the
agree.
same. But that's
I
what I'm
agree.
trying to bring back with having to DJ here at Julius Bar. Thank you, Helen. There's so many great parties you put here, but I'm trying to bring a little bit of that back. So I guess it was because the jukebox did go away, actually.
Yeah.
But
No, I tell you, I really love your music, and that's what's
Oh.
great. So I kind of I go back in time every time like you're playing a record. I try to think, where was I when that was playing, you know?
Well, that's what I love to, because your bar does it so well anyways, is really, like I said, it's like a time portal. You come in, and it could be any time, which is kind of fun. So, and the people you meet, and a lot of history in the city anyway, and so it's fun to have the music that can be part of that. When did the parties begin? Because I know Mattachine was the Mattachine party was the first one I came to and loved so much, and such a fantastic party. But how did that start? When did that begin?
Well, actually, that was started before I started to run the bar. So this year would make it 15 years that they've been doing the party. And it was actually John Cameron Mitchell who used to come here. And I guess he lived nearby. He wanted to do a party that would attract different people. And it worked.
Yeah,
because other people started to come in, and hence the Mattachine party continues to go on. And you know, they invite other guests to come in and so forth. So 15 years.
Was that the first party? That was ever...
As far as I know, yes.
I mean, and now I think of Julius's as one of the few kind of intergenerational queer spaces in New York, which is kind of rare, right? You know, a lot of people cater to different clientele, and this kind of attracts a diverse crowd when it comes to age.
Right.
How do you kind of balance people who want to party and dance, or people who need like a quiet space to talk, and it's a whole kind of careful ecosystem that I feel like you manage well.
Yeah, well, usually the younger generation tends to come after 8 o'clock. Right. So before 8, it tends to be quieter. The older generation comes in, you know, has their drink and food and so forth. It just kind of works that way. But then you see the older gentlemen who come in during Mattachine or after dark, and they really enjoy it, and they're like, wow, you know, like, well, look at all these young men. So, I mean, you know, it's beautiful people, you know. Yeah. But the older gentlemen are so cool, like to sit and chat with them.
Good storytellers here.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're great, and it just kind of happened, like, you know.
Yeah, you make it sound easy, but I feel like there's some care and thought that goes into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of care and thought. I love this place, and I can't explain it. Like, you know, you have I have this joy in my heart knowing and seeing people happy. It just feels good, you know. And so when people come, it like just makes my heart full, and just watching people enjoying themselves, like having a great time, you know. And I think that's why I think it just maybe radiates for me. I don't know, but I just feel it. There's such a love for this place, and like even yourselves coming in, like I feel like you're my kids, you know. Yeah. I'm that old aunt, and everybody's coming in and hanging out.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah. But there's some other things I'd love for you to talk about, like above the ATM. I think so many people look up and see this painting of this woman. I used to, and I didn't know the history about it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I found out that that's Texas Guyane. And Texas Guyane was in the era of other famous
Mae West.
Mae West, thank you. I was going to say the lady with the big boobs.
Mae West. Dolly Parton.
Well, that one too.
Yeah.
She's not that old.
Yeah.
But so she was in that era. Now, why she's on the wall, I'm not sure. But if she was a speakeasy owner, it kind of makes sense. And if she knew a lot of the clientele or a lot of the people who were running the speakeasies, it kind of makes sense. And recently, I haven't told you this yet, but recently there was somebody who reached out and said it was their grandfather who used to come in here. And I can't prove it yet, but they said the grandfather used to come in here and he would draw pictures on the walls for free drinks. So I don't know if he did that, or I'm pretty sure though that she in some way was involved with this bar.
Because it's painted right onto the wall, and then you just put a frame on it, right?
Right. There's actually 2 frames.
Oh.
If you look at it carefully, if you look in the corner, you see a ripple, and that's the original canvas. And they put that wood frame, and then we accentuated it even more by putting the gold frame and the light over it. Yeah. So her line used to be, "Put your wallets on the bar, suckers," and that was her line.
That needs to be a T-shirt.
It should be.
Julius on the
put your wallet. I know, it's really cool.
That's great. So Helen, over the years of you owning the bar, can you tell us some like wild and wacky stories or something we might not know about Julius?
Well, yes. One of my favorite stories is one time I had planned to have some repair work done. So I was supposed to meet a contractor early in the morning, like 7 a.m. But the night before on Sunday night, I closed. So I said, well, I don't have time to go home and come back. So I decided I was going to bring a lawn chair and a pillow.
Oh my gosh.
And I was going to stay here. So I put the alarm on to alarm and stay so I can move around. And I actually was back here where people couldn't see me, right by where the back bathroom is. So I got all settled in and turned off the lights and the jukebox because that was annoying. So I closed my eyes, and as I'm laying there, I feel something go like this to my hair.
What?
Exactly. I said, wait, what was that? So I was laying there and I'm going, okay, I'm a friend, I'm no threat to anybody. And it stopped. And then I think at some point I fell asleep. And then all of a sudden, the jukebox goes on by itself. And I went, okay, that's it, I'm done.
Oh boy.
So I called up the contractor who lives next door. And I said, listen, I'm here early. You can come down anytime you want. You don't have to wait till 7 a.m. And that was one of my creepy, crazy stories, but yeah.
I think that was the spirit of a hairstylist from maybe the 60s. It was like, we need to work this. Yeah. Let me put some music on to do
That's
it.
right. Maybe it was Texas Guyenne. She was going, I like her hair.
Yeah, that's commitment to like set up shop and stay at Julius.
Yeah.
I love that.
There's probably many ghosts in this space, you know?
I truly believe so. We have some interesting little things that happen, but we're all, like I say goodnight to Texas every time I'm present. I'm going to say, hey, good night, girl. It's all good.
I love
if Texas ain't happy.
And she says goodnight back.
I guess so.
Yeah, exactly.
She does.
You've owned this bar since 1999.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen a lot of changes, both for LGBT spaces, but also New York City at large.
Yes.
What are some of those changes? What do you think the future of New York and maybe queer spaces might be?
Well, I think it's already happening where they're becoming all-inclusive, and the pandemic really showed me that more than anything else, I think, is when you have straight people that are contributing to preserve this space for the LGBT community, I think that's when you're really moving ahead. Or when you have young students like my son, when he was younger and still in high school, and part of and even going to Catholic school, that's the part that would get me, which I go, wow, this is really moving ahead and moving in the right direction, is they would say, can I come to the bar, learn the history, and do my report on Julius? Because my son was like he was like the ambassador, saying, oh, my mom owns the oldest gay bar, and you can come in and she'll tell you,
that's cool.
It's like career day.
It's like, right. And so that is hopeful for me, because the younger people are learning about the history, the LGBT history, and when you know something, then you want to preserve it, and you want to help it. But that was the great part, the great thing about how it's moving forward. If you think of the 67 years ago where you couldn't have a drink, and then now you have straight people who are looking to support the space because they love the bar and they understand the history and why it's so important. So, yeah.
Well, and now Julius is a New York City landmark.
Yes.
Congratulations on that. That's very exciting. There's a shiny plaque outside.
Yes.
What does that mean for the building and the bar's future?
Okay, so for the landmark that we have now, it protects the building from being turned into some high rise, right? Now, prior to that, on the 50th anniversary, we had gotten on the National Registry of Historic Places, so that was recognized for the LGBT community. And then the landmarking, that has been in the works for 10 years, trying to get that done to protect the building so that nothing can happen. So it makes it, it's also in a historic district, so it would be hard anyway.
Right.
But at least the city recognizes the importance.
Well, I know that gives us peace of mind, and hopefully as people have learned more about Julius's right now, they're glad it'll be around for the future. What do you think the future looks like for Julius's?
I think it's going to continue to be what it is and continue to welcome people, and who knows, maybe you'll be another generation that will learn, and we'll just move forward. Yeah.
Amen to that. Well, thanks so much for letting us get to know you and the space a bit more. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
There we go.
Don't forget the eyes.
Yeah.